Well, imagine waking up one morning and hearing this headline. The United States accepts China as the main power in Asia. No more military competition, no more power struggle in the Pacific. Instead, Washington simply says, Asia is China's sphere of influence. Sounds impossible? Well, you see, this idea is actually being discussed quietly by many global strategists. Because today, Asia is becoming the center of the world economy. And the big question is, can America really stop China forever? Or one day, will it simply accept China's leadership in Asia? First, we need to understand something very important. For almost 80 years, the United States has been the main power in Asia. After World War II, America built alliances across the region: Japan, South Korea, Philippines, Australia, Thailand, and the US Navy became the security guardian of the Pacific Ocean. Because of this protection, Asian countries could grow economically. Japan became an economic giant. South Korea transformed from a poor country into one of the richest in Asia. Even China itself benefited from the global system created by the United States. But here is the twist. Today, China is no longer a small player. It is now the second largest economy in the world. China's GDP is around $18 trillion according to the World Bank. And when measured by purchasing power, China is already the largest economy on earth. But the real story is not just money, it is geography. China is in the center of Asia. The United States is 12,000 kilometers away. So naturally, China believes something very simple. Asia should be led by Asian powers, not by a distant superpower. And many Chinese leaders openly say this. In fact, China has a phrase for it: Asia for Asians. Now here is where things get interesting. Some Western strategists have asked a controversial question. What if the United States cannot stop China's rise? Should America accept a China-led Asia, just like the US dominates the Western Hemisphere? You see, historically, great powers often control their nearby regions. The United States dominates North America and much of Western Hemisphere. Europe once dominated Africa and parts of Asia. So China argues something similar. If America has its sphere of influence, why can't China have one? Now imagine this scenario. The United States reduces its military presence in Asia. American ships patrol the Pacific less often. And Washington tells its allies something unexpected. We will still trade with you, but China will handle regional leadership. What would happen next? Well, the first shock would hit Japan and South Korea. For decades, these countries have depended on US military protection. Japan hosts around 50,000 American troops. South Korea hosts about 28,000 US soldiers. If America steps back, these countries would suddenly feel very exposed. Japan might even debate something it has avoided since World War II: nuclear weapons. Yes, because without US protection, Japan may feel it must defend itself more aggressively. South Korea could face the same decision. And suddenly, Asia might become more militarized, not less. Now let's talk about Southeast Asia. Countries like Vietnam, Philippines and Indonesia have a complicated relationship with China. China is their biggest trading partner, but they are also worried about China's power, especially in the South China Sea. If the US steps back, these countries might have fewer choices. Some may accept China's leadership, others might quietly resist. And we could see a new kind of diplomacy in Asia. Not open war, but careful balancing around China. Now here is another important effect: the global economy. Asia already produces more than 40% of global GDP, and China controls many major trade routes. China's Belt and Road Initiative has invested hundreds of billions of dollars in infrastructure across Asia, Africa, and Europe. If China becomes the uncontested leader of Asia, it could shape trade rules, technology standards, and supply chains. For example, Chinese technology companies could dominate digital networks across Asia. Chinese currency could become more widely used in international trade, and global finance might slowly shift eastward. But here is something many people forget. China leading Asia does not automatically mean Asia will accept it. History matters. Many Asian countries still remember difficult moments with China. Vietnam fought a war with China in 1979. India and China have border tensions in the Himalayas. Japan and China have long historical disputes. So even if America steps back, China may still face resistance from its neighbors. Leadership is not just about power, it is also about trust. Now let's look at the future. Many experts say the world may enter something called a multipolar era. Instead of one superpower dominating everything, there may be several major powers. The United States, China, India, the European Union, maybe even others. In this world, influence is shared and regional powers play bigger roles in their own areas. So a China-led Asia might not mean China controls everything. It might simply mean China becomes the strongest voice in the region. But here is the final question. Would the United States ever accept this? For now, the answer seems clear. Washington still believes Asia is too important to leave. Asia contains some of the world's biggest economies. Japan, South Korea, India, ASEAN countries, and the Pacific Ocean is one of the most strategic regions on Earth. That is why the United States continues building alliances like AUKUS and strengthening cooperation with countries like India and Japan. Because from Washington's perspective, accepting a China-led Asia could mean accepting the end of American global leadership, and no superpower has ever accepted that easily. So the future of Asia is still being written. Will it remain a region protected by American alliances, or will it slowly transform into a region led by China? Well, you see, the answer to that question might decide how the world looks in the next 50 years, and we may already be watching the beginning of that story.